as you were working on it, did you start to feel a sort of ownership over the character of Frances? I imagine it must be very interesting to collaborate with someone creating a character that you're also playing the character. At a certain point, you must feel like, I know this character better than he does, or...
I didn't actually feel that way. I felt like we both had locked into her voice pretty... Once we locked in, we knew what it was and why she was funny and how she was big-hearted but also pig-headed and all of the things that she is. And I think Noah and I both had that voice in our head the whole time. And I think he had it in him as much as I had it in me. And I didn't really feel like I owned it as an actor until we started making it.
Can you talk a bit about how that worked and how the sort of generation of ideas and the scenes were built between the two of you?
Sure. I'd been acting a lot at that period in my life, and I'd been writing continuously, but I hadn't finished anything, and I felt like I had all this stored up material. So when he asked if I had any ideas, I was like, funny you should ask. Here's a bunch of things. And I was totally ready for it, and I was very excited. And he liked it. And so we started kind of culling from that, and then he started adding things, and we just really started building a document through email because we were mostly writing alone. I think the most we did it together, like physically in the same room, we did, we would print it and then we would read it out loud, just trading off parts just to hear it, because I think a lot of it's very rhythmic, and it was almost like we were listening to hear if something was going to catch, and if it caught, then we'd know we'd have to rewrite that line. But it wasn't sitting in front of a computer together saying, and then I say this, and then you say that. It was more it was more solitary in terms of the actual writing.
And what was the genesis of the idea in terms of doing this sort of portrait of this 27-year-old woman adrift in New York? Was that an idea that appealed to you, or was it something he came to you with?
He was interested in doing something. He immediately talked about kind of the French New Wave portrait of youth type films, and that he really loved those, and kind of trying to do something in that style or that world or that tradition. I think in some ways I just thought, oh no, we can't make another film with kids in an apartment. But then, nobody's made this one, and then you do. I mean, I think that's actually a hurdle that you deal with every time you write something or act in something, or you're always faced with, maybe this is only me and this is my psychology, but all I can think of is all the bad versions of it that have ever existed. And you're like, not two people talking in a restaurant again, oh God. But then, Quentin Tarantino does it and it's amazing. But for some reason, I always think of the bad version first. So I was nervous because I thought, what if we make the bad one? And Noah said, we're not going to make the bad one. So
I think if you know what the bad one looks like, you're already halfway to not making it.
I don't think that's
true. The person who makes the bad one doesn't know they're making the bad one.
I think you can know. I feel like I've occasionally known when I'm not. I feel like as an actor, I've occasionally known, like, this is not going well.
This is the bad one.
Yeah, this is the one, and you like read something and you're like, it's true, I'm not good in that.
The one moment that reliably makes me laugh the most is that moment when she's in Paris and she goes to the movie theater and asks them about Puss in Boots. Because I feel like it just totally captures a very particular feeling of being lost in a foreign city, having this romantic idea of what your experience is going to be, and then the reality of it, just being bored and eating some terrible restaurant and then going to see Puss in Boots. So did you sort of start with moments like that and then try to build scenes around them, or how did that work?
Just because it's my favorite line in the movie, because I think it's the saddest line of all time. It's not even, it's when did Puss in Boots start? She's not even gonna see it from the beginning. It's halfway through. It's like so tragic. It was, we did have like the when did Puss in Boots start? And then we did have we wanted her to be eating at the wrong bistro, but then we put her in a McDonald's and it was too sad. It was like, no, can't put her in French McDonald's. That's just too depressing. I mean, we had all these moments, but the idea of being going to Paris and sleeping through the whole thing. That was a really early Noah idea, and he was like, you know, what would be great. This. It was like, we have to make a really happy ending for this person if you make them go through that.
Your acting style is very particular, and well, to say style is a bit of a misnomer. My colleague at the Times has described your style as being almost in opposition to the idea of style, which I know he meant as a very great compliment. There's a kind of ease and naturalness to your screen presence. Is that something itself that just sort of comes naturally for you, or is it something you think about, work on, try to hone?
I think I've settled into the way I act more now than I was in my early 20s, and I think I've accepted that it's never going to look like textbook anything, but it's going to feel alive to me and right to me, and that's what I need to go towards instead of looking for the part that feels like official, and this is officially good. But sometimes I'll see an actor that I identify with, and something deep in me kind of resonates with it. And recently it's the French actor Denis Lavant, and he was in that film Holy Motors, and there was something about what he was doing, and I'm not as acrobatic as he is, but there was something about it that I felt like that's the kind of actor I want to be, but not in an aspirational self-hating kind of way, but like I think maybe that if I work at it, that's maybe the kind of actor I actually am.
It's funny you mentioned. Did you see Holy Motors? I now own an accordion because of that movie.
So do I.
Oh, really?
I do.
Do you know how to play it?
I just started lessons.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I want to know how to play the accordion.
It's that one scene in the movie with the accordions.
I could have watched that for like an hour. It was great.
Well, good luck with the lessons. We should meet again in 2 years and see if either of us can actually
Probably
play.
not. Do you really have an accordion?
I am now the owner of an accordion. My wife bought me one for our anniversary.
What a good gift.
It is good. It's huge.
So big. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really big.
It's also a big question of where do you practice your accordion?
Not in my apartment.
I feel like I have to go to Jones Beach or something.
I know.
This has been Accordion Talk, folks. Now, you, Greta, wrote a piece for the Times Magazine about the scene in the movie where Frances is with Sophie in the bathroom and she has the confrontation over Patch, and about how many takes you guys did on that scene. I think it was more than, it was between 30 and 40 by my recollection. Yeah. And I know Noah did a thing for the Times too about a different scene in the film and also talked about doing 30 takes of the same scene. So is that, can you talk a bit about that sort of style and as an actor, sort of finding those moments of precision when you're doing the same scene over and over like that?
The script itself was so set in stone and we didn't improvise at all. And similarly, the camera movements and the blocking and the framing was very set. So like it's very locked down, and it doesn't, we wanted it to feel unchoreographed, but we wanted it to be choreographed. And that's really, it's difficult to achieve without doing just a lot of takes. I think it, in some ways it gets easier for me. I mean, once I talked about this in the piece, but once you sort of, you get over it feeling good, and then you get over it feeling boring and bad, and then you find all these other things that you didn't even know were behind it. And I'm sure it's similar. When I've talked to people I know who've been in very long runs of Broadway plays, they go through it, but every night over a 6-month period, and we do it 40 times in 3 hours or something. But it's kind of similar like letting the boredom or letting this that lead you into something that you did is more interesting somehow.
I think one of the interesting things about the film is it feels very contemporary in a sense, like very much about what it's like to be that age at this moment in New York, but also very timeless. You mentioned the new wave films earlier, and can you talk a little bit about sort of the style you were going for, the use of the anachronistic music and the black and white and all of that?
I don't think we ever tried to make it feel modern or generational in any way. I think we were trying to write this character as well as we could and this story as well as we could. I think probably Noah and I are both, we have some old spirit. That's a deodorant? No, is it? Yeah, we're deodorants. No, I think we have. I always feel like I fall in love with art forms right as they're kind of exiting the mainstream, and I think it's a very interesting moment in movies and cinema, and I think there was something about telling this story, but using some of the cinematic language and music of older movies that seemed like it echoed the pain of like losing youth or losing your friend. It's bittersweet. There's something melancholy about it, even though it's beautiful and triumphant that the moment has passed.
You do give her, as you said earlier, a hopeful ending in her way. Do you have a kind of imagined future for that character, how things kind of turn out for her 10, 20 years in the future?
No, it kind of ends for me. I think what I love about the thing I love most about any art, or when I go to museums or see theater or go to movies, is that feeling of it's like the frame. That's it. That's all you get. And for me, as a writer and as an actor, it's when it ends. It's almost for me. I feel like I give it curtains, and it feels sad, but that's what I love about it.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Thank you for your great questions, and thank you, Greta Gerwig.
Thank you. Thanks.